What is the answer?
Well, welcome to the Answer Podcast, where we will be providing answers for relationship questions. But, what's interesting is that wherever I go, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like restaurant. In fact, the other day, I'm preparing for my daughter dance, right?
Daddy-daughter dance.
Daddy-daughter dance. Mm-hmm. And even there, people always some kind
Dad's hitting you up at the daddy-daughter
some kind of way,
dance rehearsal.
They're gonna stop and they want to talk about relationship. They
Why?
want to talk about pain.
Why would they be asking you though?
Well, they find I'm a pastor.
Oh, so just because you're a pastor,
and they feel like I got
get the
answers.
questions.
Yeah, I feel like I got answers.
Okay.
But it's amazing. I mean, I go to restaurants and it's the circles and just wherever. I'm at the gym. They want to stop me, talk about relationships.
Wow.
It's
crazy.
unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But I found out, I believe, why there are so many relationship problems. Of course, there's a lot of issues, but I believe one of the things is emotional unhealthiness. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. People just not emotionally healthy.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they have questions, because they lack emotional health.
Yeah, just people not emotionally healthy and kind of struggling. I believe that's one of the larger problems that people are dealing with.
I could see that because it kind of reminds me of, when we were younger, when we started dating and then got married at a very young age. And I remember getting into the marriage. Of course, we weren't prepared, right?
Right.
But we got into it. And I was thinking, that I was going to have this sense of independence, working toward my career, out, getting it. And because that's what I saw at home. I saw women who were working, women who were leading, women who were entrepreneurs, and so growing up in that environment, that's kind of what I anticipated life would be like for me, even though we were married. But you had a different perspective.
Yeah, it created a lot of emotional turmoil.
Yeah, so why don't you share that?
Well, I think my understanding, was basically I'm a preacher. I'm gonna go preach. I'm gonna be the breadwinner, and that my wife would stay at home because that was the picture that I seen. My grandmother, my auntie, as well as my mom. And so I was like, hey, you at the house raising children. I'm going to go walk on water, take 2 fish, 5 loaves of bread, and feed those individuals who, need ministry. And so it created a lot of.
For me, it did, because honestly, it felt uncomfortable, staying at home. And funny thing is, I believe even in today's society, we see a lot of women who want to be housewives.
Yeah.
Like they want to be at home. I guess this whole reality thing with the Real Housewives has brought this whole perspective about being at home and what that life is like. And that's not what I dreamt of, when we got into our marriage. And so that was new for me and it was uncomfortable, but I adjusted, I adapted, in humble submission, of course,
sure.
And trying to do the right thing. But yeah, that was hard because that wasn't my thought process.
Yeah. And I think, it was so much emotional, so many emotional issues, back then. And I think, just wasn't emotionally mature. And when I talk about emotionally mature, you know, this whole idea of can you manage how you feel well? Or because you can be grown and still juvenile when it comes to your responses,
Sure.
those kinds of things. And
Yeah.
so I just believe that it was kind of juvenile, just some of the responses. And this is what I discovered later on when it comes to being healed emotionally,
What?
that you manage emotions through your thinking. Right? Like
That's it.
your feelings follow your thinking. Right?
Yeah.
Your thinking don't follow your feelings.
Right.
And the Bible even speaks to the idea, as a man thinketh,
So is he.
so is he. And so people are like, well, I ain't feeling happy. Well, you ain't thinking happy.
Right.
You know, it starts with a thought. Everything originates with a thought, and your emotions, and I didn't know this early on, they're dependent on your thoughts.
Your thoughts.
Yeah.
Which is so important, because when it comes to being happy, I mean, it's a choice. You have to think on those things so that you can be, which is really good, because I think, you know, a lot of times couples believe when they get into relationships, they're looking for happiness. They want to be happy. But you have to have the right thinking as it relates to what that really means. Yep. So what would you say? Are there answers that you can provide, steps that you can provide that can help our audience know?
Well, I think,
What to do?
you know, just a couple of things that may help with, you know, of course, the thinking, I think is a big piece. Like you have to raise your level of thinking and how you think about things and how you process things and how you receive things. And I think it's really also connected to your belief. I think you manage emotions through belief, right? And I want to take it a step further, since I'm a Christian, you know, I'm a believer, I'm a pastor. It's the faith to believe God's truth. It's how you can manage fear. It's how you can manage anxiety. It's how you can manage stress. It's how you can manage, you know, I'm about to snap off on you. I'm about to let you know where I come. You know what I'm saying? And so I think it's the whole idea of my faith in God's truth helps me to manage my emotions maturely.
Yeah.
And I guess in that season, my faith needed to grow.
For sure. I think both of us.
Yeah.
You know, and just speaking of that, and talking about just the whole idea of this emotional health. I know when you're young and, you know, you get into these disagreements and stuff like that, and you don't really understand that you're lashing out as a result of, you know, what your beliefs and your habits are. But I think you talked about it before with the whole iceberg situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the whole idea of the iceberg, you know, we get in relationships, and it is such a great picture of relationships, because whenever you see an iceberg, 15% is seen.
It's seen.
15%.
It's the 15%.
Right.
That's crazy.
Only, and then 85% is under the
Underneath.
water.
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you why that's so good. Because you get into relationships, right? And you're dating someone and hopefully getting to really know them.
Yeah.
But you only really seeing the 15.
Surface.
That's crazy.
Just a glimpse. You got a
that's
glimpse of the guy, the glimpse of the girl.
But that's
it.
That's who you fall in love with. That's who you want to be with.
You can fall
it's
in
based
love
on
with,
the 15%.
fall in love with a glimpse.
Wow.
Don't even know him. And I think that's an issue.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the real person is what lies beneath.
What lies beneath?
You know, it's character. It's who they are in their heart. It's the real person.
And that takes time.
Yeah.
That
And
takes a lot of time.
yeah. And so what happened, a lot of the issues we're dealing with, reflected the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We dealing with the 15% when it comes to our relationship, not realizing that ain't even.
That's not even it. And it's that thing where you're like, man, I don't know what's going on in a relationship with this person. I know I love them, but man, we're not seeing eye to eye. You can't really put your finger on it because you can't see it. You can't see it. And that's so good. And I think that's why it's so important for us to take our time when it comes to relationships, to really get to know the person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you see it a lot of times, like when the baby nose is running, right? And you wiping the nose. And that's what people do in a relationship. Just wiping the nose. Just wiping the nose. Just wiping the That ain't, it's a virus.
I know that's allergies.
That's allergies. Like, that's only a glimpse. And we're not dealing with the real issue. Right? And I think it's very important that if relationships are going to thrive, if we're going to build healthy families, right, it's very important that we are intentional on becoming emotionally healthy, right? Emotions are good. Like they're a great gauge, but they can be a terrible guide. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I need my emotions because they let me know my feelings are important. So we don't want you not to feel, but when you are led by feelings, often it kind of lead to disaster.
It lead to disaster. It makes me think about, just the Titanic, right?
Yeah.
When you know the movie, they had a goal or they had a deadline to meet a destination in a certain amount of time. And they sped up. They sped up. They rushed. And I think that's a big thing, because the more we talk with couples, counsel couples, a lot of times they rushing into it.
Yeah.
You're rushing into it, so you can't see the 85% underneath.
Yeah.
It may benefit you to take your time.
But here's the thing about the Titanic. That's one of my movies. You know that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that movie. But it hit an iceberg. You remember that? And it was leaking underneath.
Oh, the ship was.
The ship. You can't even see the leak. And everybody, watch this, is leaking underneath. And everybody at the party dancing.
They on top.
they
on
dancing
top.
And drown, about to drown.
Yes, that's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They dancing and underneath that thing sinking. Because what sinks ships is not how cute a person is. It's character. It's the character.
It's the character.
That's what
That's
sinks
so
ships. That's what sinks pastors. That's what sinks CEOs. That's what sinks husbands. That's what sinks the wife. It is the character. And we got to make certain that we become emotionally healthy and pay attention to the signs. Like, you cute, but you cuss a lot.
Yeah, that's a flag.
That's
Like-
you are emotionally unhealthy.
Why would
Like,
you
you
ignore
cuss
that?
like that. Or you very smart, but you punch walls.
Yeah, you got anger issues.
Yeah. Anger, and you know that whole thing with anger, right?
What?
You know.
Tell me. What?
Danger. Drop the D.
Oh, anger, danger.
Yeah. Usually when there's anger, it's close to danger. So all of these little flags, and that's why I encourage people, listen, learn to date in all seasons. We only date in the summer. Oh, look at them with the shots on.
Everything
Look
hot
at it.
and
Oh, look
good
at
and
yeah.
sizzling.
Yeah. Date them when it get cold, when life is tough, winter season, and see their responses, right? And I'm not saying necessarily that's a deal breaker. In some instances, it may be a deal breaker if you're dating. But what I'm encouraging to do, slow down.
Slow down.
Slow down. Make an appointment with your pastor. Make an appointment with a counselor. Go see the doctor.
Yeah.
Right? and start becoming emotionally healthy. And what will help you to become emotionally healthy is manage emotions through your thinking, right? And two, your faith in God's truth will help you manage your emotions. Don't be led by feelings. Be led by your faith.
By faith.
And I think if we can do that, right, and that's a process, if we can do that, it is going to help us to build healthy relationships.
That's so good. That's so good.
We about to do this. We about to touch the world through the podcast.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. So we definitely pray and hope that someone was helped by all of this. So thanks so much for joining the Answer Podcast, where we are providing answers for questions, relationships, questions. I'm going to repeat that.
This is our first
Thanks
one. Give us some
for joining
grace.
the Answer Podcast, where we are providing answers for life's questions.